Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Let's get this going. There was an article going around the New York Times last week that struck me. All the worst people seem to want to be high agency, is what it said. It really struck me. Of course you want to be high agency. You want to be agentic, not mimetic. You want to be a main character, not an NPC. There's this zeitgeist where it seems to basically say, in a post-institutional landscape where everything has changed and the future is uncertain, you need to become maximally high agency. And so we become high agency because, of course, you can just do things, as they say around here. And then we build stacks of agents, leading agents, so that we can do what? Well, that was the question the article begged. We seem to have lost maybe deeper concepts of courage or moral vision or telos in the quest to be agentic for its own sake. And I think we need to think very deeply and carefully about this because I think the church actually has a different source of generativity and innovation. I think we need to move from being agentic to apostolic. See, the church doesn't need to become more innovative, it needs to become more itself. The apostolic capacity, the apostolic function is the one that listens to what God is saying, what the Spirit is doing. It co-creates. It has a different source. It moves out into the world out of love and out of a desire to meet the frontiers and to seek and save the lost and to go where the gospel isn't. We're playing a different game. And the church, when it's at its most apostolic, is also when it's at its most innovative. See, I don't think the history of the church is a history of technology. I think it's a history of the church recovering its apostolic capacity, renewing itself, following the Holy Spirit, going deeper into what it is and what it's called to be in the world, and then pushing out into the frontiers. And then it's in the frontiers that the new wineskins emerge. Right? It's in the frontiers that the innovations and the solutions and the ways of being and the ways of interacting and bridging the gap between Christ and culture, between Jesus and the world happens. So many of the missions movements and the things that you've heard about in history were innovative at one time. They were a response to a changing cultural climate and a changing cultural context. Leslie Newbigin, the great missionary theologian, said that the development of a truly missionary encounter is the greatest intellectual and practical task facing the church today. See, I'm not much of a technologist. I'm more of a missiologist. But we have to take the Great Commission and the constitution of the church and its work in the world as our starting point if we're going to engage technology rightly and properly. So what does this look like? We know that we live in a world of new frontiers. You don't need me to tell you that. The mission fields are changing. When my grandpa went to Congo 3 generations ago, it was pretty easy. The church is here, the lost are there, let's go. That world's been flipped upside down, I think we know that. So we need creative, applied, missiological action and reflection in the new frontiers of our time to think like missionaries again into the world that God is now putting us in. Now, here's the problem. Let me just share some research with you that we did. There's about $150 billion a year in philanthropic charitable money that flows through the church and the nonprofit space in this country. Less than 1% of it goes to ventures under 3 years old. So if you're planting a church, starting a ministry, starting a movement, starting a community, starting a network, where do you go? How do you break through the bottleneck, break through the gap to be formed and equipped and sent and funded and connected and partnered with as you try to pioneer something new in the world? The median founding age of a church and a nonprofit in this country is 1960, still, right now to this day. So for all the church planting going on, everything is happening, we need, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 churches planted every year just to keep up with baseline. And let's talk about, new nonprofits, new ventures, new organizations. There's so much need for the early stage of the Great Commission if we're going to be missionary into this context. So at the end of the day, I think the most high leverage thing we can do isn't to build technology, it's to build builders. We need to come alongside the pioneers, the innovators, the founders, the creatives, and help them figure out how to bring new movements and structures and ventures into the world. And so at the end of the day, this is what Missional Labs exists to do. We are the launch pad for missional builders. We take people that say, God has put a dream in my heart. He's put a vision in my mind. He's put an idea in front of me. There's something I've been put here to do out of a sense of mission, out of a sense of calling, out of a sense of partnership with the Holy Spirit. And we bring together the best of formation, theology, spiritual formation, leadership formation, design, helping you figure out what are you building and how's it gonna work, who's it for, who's gonna help you, and then a network, partnering with leading ministries, leading organizations like Glue, Palau, Alpha, One Hope, leading foundations, Youth for Christ. We're partnering with some of the largest organizations in the kingdom to help build these builder environments. So you can learn more about us here. I'll be here all week, but what you're gonna get from Missional Labs at this conference is 8 of the fellows that have been part of the Faith and AI cohort that we did with Glue and with Missional AI. They've been through a 3-month formation journey where we brought them around with mentors and with other kind of leading institutional leaders, funders, whatever, and really tried to shape their venture. So you're gonna hear 4-minute pitches from a handful of these folks over the course of the conference. So click here. You're gonna wanna bookmark this because there's little executive summaries of each of the project. You'll learn more. If you're a donor investor type, go say hi, introduce yourself. If you're a leader of a large organization, go say hi, introduce yourself. These are people that are pioneering something new that we want you to know about.